when do you start to measure the success of a partnership? And
or even what success is.
Yeah. I think, being able to answer that has to be the first step.
Right.
Like, you have no business really like getting into a discussion, because it's going to end up not being a great experience for anybody.
All right, we're here with Erin Cooper. We are in Marinwood, California for the Big Alta presented by Salomon. Erin, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Thanks for having me.
You've had a long time to get ahead of this first question.
Yeah.
Who is Erin?
Yeah. Erin, who am I? Someone who's really passionate about a lot of things. I think I like to dabble in a lot of things, but really on a quest to find balance in life, which really doesn't exist. But I keep very busy and have a lot of things going on in life, and it's a fun ride.
And you love running. You love being a part of the running world.
Yeah.
I see you everywhere. How did running enter the picture for you?
I think I was probably predestined to end up in running in some capacity, and not having the athletic talents that a lot of the people that I work with have. It was like a natural fit to be at a running company. But I come from from a family of runners. Both of my parents ran in high school, and one of my favorite stories from my mom is that when she was in high school, they didn't have a women's track team, and she went and got a teacher to sign on as like the person who would sponsor the track team. And they went to the athletic director and said, "Okay, we want to form a women's track team." The athletic director said, "But where will you practice?" And she said, "Well, on the track." And he said, "But that's where the boys track practice." So it's just like
168
crazy.
hours a week,
It's crazy to see like that from like just the generation above me, that experience, to like my full career is in the running industry, and it's very cool to see that pipeline. But
so you've been at Salomon for 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
What did that journey look like? How did you get there? How did you put yourself in a position to be there? And I asked that question for a variety of reasons. One, to kind of drive where we're going with the conversation, but two, a lot of people listening are wanting to get into the running space. And so hearing how did it happen is always helpful.
I had kind of a natural like upbringing into the industry. I think that a lot of people that I work with are on that same pipeline. I ran cross country and track in high school and in college, and then like just naturally from there started working in a running store. I actually post college moved to LA with my brother and was living in LA working in a running store, just like making ends meet. And I didn't even know, my whole dream was that I wanted to write for Runner's World. I was a journalism major, and that was it. That's all I wanted to do. And then I kind of, petered out on that dream a little bit. And so I'm working in the store, and you get to know a lot of the reps that come into the store. And one of the reps came in. I was leading the run club of the store at the time in Santa Monica. And she was like, "Man, you would be really good as a tech rep." And I was like, "What's that?" And then I learned about jobs of like field marketing and technical representatives that a lot of brands have. And I was like, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool. You get to like travel around and talk to different runners and talk to running stores." And so that was my first job in the industry, and just kind of cut my teeth from working in run specialty to then being out in the field representing brand, and then working my way up.
I feel like a lot of people get their start from being either tech rep or working in run specialty. What is it about that space that allows you to progress?
Anytime I'm like interviewing for people now, I always love to see if they have that background, because you're the first line of defense with customers. I mean, there's a huge difference between sitting in an office and like, what do we think runners would like? Or how do we talk to them? But like these are the people that are on the front lines and deal with it day in and day out. And you really get a breadth of experience of talking to different consumers. And I think that gives you a lot of experience. The other thing about not just working in a running store, but then being in a tech rep position for any brand is like you wear a lot of hats. You're kind of part sales, part marketing, event planner. You're dealing with all customer service. So I think it really just sets a lot of people up who are getting into the industry to then go on whatever path they want. If they want to become a sales rep or they want to be on the product team, it really is a great place to start.
What happened next?
The first company that I worked for was Saucony. I worked for Saucony for 8 years, and actually
out of Boston, right?
Out of Boston. Well, at the time, so I was living in LA post college, working at the store, and the Saucony rep was like, "You should apply." And I did apply for a role in LA, and I didn't get it. which looking in hindsight, it's all 2020, but it worked out for the best. But I was a little bit bummed. I moved back to Ohio shortly after and was working at my hometown running store at the time. Shout out to Second Soul in Ohio. And I got a call from Saucony a couple months later, and they were like, "Hey, we don't have a tech rep role, but we have this job called a mobile marketing coordinator. Would you be interested?" I didn't even know what it was. And I said,
Yep.
"Yep." 22, 23 years old. I was like, "Yeah, sign me up." Turns out it was living on the road for a year, driving an extended cab Dodge Sprinter van around the country that had a treadmill in it and demo shoes and tents and everything. And so I was basically like the traveling field marketing rep. So I didn't have a home base. So my very first day on the job, I flew to Boston for a sales meeting in November of 2011 and picked up the keys for the van and immediately drove out. This was during the time that Saucony sponsored Foot Locker national championships cross country.
And when Foot Locker existed.
One Foot RIP. And so my very first job was driving up to the Midwest champs for that and showing up and putting snow fencing up, and that was it. So I did that for a year.
So much of like finding yourself in the right place is saying yes at the right time
Yeah.
and like being in the right place to say yes
Yep.
to something.
Mhm.
What is it about the like intentional serendipity that you feel worked out, or what would you say to somebody else who's like trying to find their space in the industry?
Well, I think it's that right there, like saying yes, being in a place to say yes. I mean, I think that for sure there's a lot of like just timing in life. Like I was young, I was
Yep.
unattached, I didn't have kids. Like it worked out well that I could be like, sure, I don't need a home base.
Right.
I'll just travel for a
Drive.
year and
Yeah.
drive and buy myself in a van. But I think knowing or believing that like nothing really lasts forever. So you can't even fathom. I didn't even know that job existed. So you can't even imagine what that might lead to or
Right.
who you might meet along the way or, what doors are going to open up in the future. And so I think that's always been my philosophy, which like circles back around obviously 8 years later to then taking this job with Salomon. Like I'd never, if you would have told me I'm going to be living in Utah someday, like I just could have never
Yeah.
imagined that. And it's like now it makes total sense that that's how it ended up.
So fast forward those 8 years, you're
Hmm.
leading performance and sports style for a global brand that works with some of the best athletes in the world.
Hmm.
And you get to work with some of those best athletes in the world. You're on a texting relationship with those athletes. Um, what happened in between? How did that
Yeah.
gap occur? Or how
It's,
did that
I mean, I think, yeah. So I worked in the field for a while after that van role. I was a tech rep down in Florida, and then I became a tech rep back in Ohio and was a manager. And then pretty shortly after 2016, I was extended a promotion to join the marketing team in Boston. So I lived in Boston prior to coming out to Utah. And in that role, I was in and around brand marketing for what I like know it now and like the team that deals with
Yep.
the athletes, but I wasn't directly involved. I worked on the trade marketing team, so partnerships with wholesale accounts,
Yep.
Marathon Sports example. Um, but I was always interested in it, and I was like, "This is yeah." There's something there that like I am very much rooted in like the love of storytelling from my journalism
Yeah.
background, and like wanted to lean into like the bigger stories you can tell with athletes and when you have product launches, etc. Anyways, a recruiter reached out about Solomon. And once I figured out what side of Colorado, Utah was actually on, because I wasn't quite sure being an East Coast person, Midwest person. I just was like, man, this is a brand that like I don't know that I would have ever really seen myself at coming from such like a strong road background. But I just was enamored with like everything that they do in their storytelling space that it definitely piqued my interest. And then after one interview, I was like, I think I'm hooked.
So you've been there a while now. You're on the
Yeah.
brand marketing side.
Yep.
I love the conversation or the not parallels, like the juxtaposition of brand versus performance marketing. What does brand marketing mean to you? How do you execute good brand marketing?
I think the first thing is that you always have to be thinking omni-channel. Like there's,
Okay.
we have divisions within the organization that of course are like trade first or like wholesale first or owned retail first. We have the beauty of living in between all of that and just like wherever the consumer chooses to find us or shop for us or experience us, we get to be like the keeper of how do you
Yep.
keep that experience consistent, because everyone's going to intercept with a brand at a different point. Whether they know us from the skiing background or maybe they're coming over from Sportstyle or whatever it is, like we really sit in that space and can kind of play and like where do we think they're coming from and how do we meet them where they are and be able to introduce them to the brand.
What are the tools that you have as a brand marketer? What are the channels? What are the, like, tactics that you're executing against?
Well, we obviously I work out of the North America office. So we work very closely with our counterparts at the headquarters in Annecy, France. It's like a well-oiled machine over there. Like we're a very dialed company. And that was like one of the first things when I joined that I was like, oh, this is kind of the big leagues. Like
Yeah.
there's definitely a huge difference in like a global brand like Salomon and how many people are involved in things. So our responsibility is to understand where the brand is going, what are the key campaigns or products we have going on, and then adapt that to like our go-to-market strategy. I would say the biggest things that we lean into, and obviously having like Drew here, who leads our sports and community marketing on the performance side, like we think about in real life executions and activations. We think a lot digitally, so we work really closely of like what is our content assortment? Does that speak to the North America audience? Do we need to supplement it? And if so, how do we do that? Is that
Right.
through influencers and paid content? We work a lot with PR and have two different PR agencies that are great that oversee sports style and performance differently. Performance in the concept of like running
Run.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Um,
outside PR.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, shout out to Outside PR. And so, yeah, I would say like our my team really oversees the campaign execution in the market, sports and community. We have owned retail under our umbrella as well, so we're starting to open up more stores in North America. And how do we look and activate in the community and
Yep.
kind of emerge there? But it feels like an endless supply of like tools for us to lean into, and it's constantly adapting depending on where the consumer is.
Yeah, and where, like, you spent one whole pandemic at at Salomon,
My first
and
year?
yeah, I can't even imagine.
Second year.
Um, and, like, I was at Insight Tracker in
Mhm,
2020 through 2025, and so much of that was adapting. You're always adapting. The market's changing.
mhm,
All these different things are changing. Coming out of all of that, it's 2026. People are craving the in real life experiences. People are
mhm,
craving travel to a race. They're wanting to go and do things with their friends. They're traveling with their family. How do you think about the intersection of the in-person and digital? And like we're here
mhm,
on a media trip, and there
mhm,
are a bunch of people who have some media property,
mhm.
and we'll go back and publish our stuff online, but we're meeting in person.
Yeah.
How how do you think about the congruency or the alignment between digital and in person?
I think if you do it successfully, one can't live without the other.
Yeah.
Because a goal, if we're thinking about a media trip and we are thinking about who would be great partners to have on that, and then what are their audiences and how
Yep.
do they differ across each other? I want someone that's going back in your following to be able to see that, they're already bought into you and your
Right.
as being a part of your audience and to be like, wow, that looks like something really cool, like that he got to experience with Solomon. I've never thought about Solomon. Like maybe I should think about it, but then you need to layer it up where like you're able to offer those experiences to people that are following. And I think they come in different like tiers. There's sort of like the tip of the spear where it's
Right.
like, okay, how do we get the right people in the room to like understand the message or what we're trying to do to get it out to their audiences, and then how do you offer something like that that's to the mass consumer? So and then when you're even having that experience, it's like a bigger, let's say a product launch and you have a, consumer activation or whatever it is that you are capturing content there to
Right.
put back into the ecosystem so that other people
Before,
that are
during,
seeing it
after.
exactly are like, man, I feel like there is something special about creating FOMO in a
Exactly.
very positive way, not in like an exclusivity
Yep.
way, but sort of like, man, I wanna be a part of that, and I think that's, like, part of building the community around it.
I think a lot of the brands that are doing it right are creating that um FOMO, like digital FOMO, that you're
Mhm,
welcome to be a part of if you show up in person.
mhm,
And so there's some exclusivity with that, in that, like, you have to get on a plane or get in a
sure.
car and go somewhere, but, like, with what's happening with Western states or here at Big Alta, like,
Mhm,
brands are making things fun,
mhm,
and most people are invited to, or everyone's invited to participate in the fun. Um, Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, and I think, like, an event like this, you're probably not gonna travel out here unless you're running the race or you're
Right.
crewing somebody or you're in that sense, but how do we
Which you should,
support
because
it's pretty
these
awesome.
trips are freaking
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, this would be a great getaway. But, how do we help, like, expand that to more audiences? And, like, I feel like I'm a perfect, like, test case, example of being, like, really purely from the road running space, and
Yep.
now, like, the fact that we're able to live stream trail races and,
Right.
like, feel a part of that and expand the community and, yeah, make it really fun, I think is part of what's helping grow the sport. It's just, like, being able to see it. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind is what it used to be, and now it's, like, more people are like, "Oh my gosh, look at that. I could see myself doing that."
Talk to me more about the, like, the YouTube access and the digital access. By the way, if you're listening to this on, um, audio only, you can watch it on YouTube.
Mm,
But,
nice plug.
speaking of YouTube, how do you think about the broadcast side of racing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my like realm of like touching that space is through our partnerships that we have at our HQ. But if we think about like Golden Trail Series, for example, there is a partnership with Warner Brothers where we have been, live streaming and really um, targeting to be able to get that out. I think in spaces where you're able to do that at the trail races. I mean, you run into a lot of like 4G coverage and things that maybe make it prohibitive, but I do think it is really, really cool to be able to offer that up. You have people like Courtney Dauwalter, that there's just a mass following and like her fan base to be able to tune in from wherever they are in the world and be able to cheer her on and root for her is a pretty special time that we're in, that we're like able to show that.
What is it like having someone like Courtney, who's like a tentpole type partner, in that she has people that follow her, that support her, that are 10 times larger than her, and like a Cam Haines with
Hmm.
millions of followers, or she went on Joe Rogan. Like, say what
Hmm.
you will about his platform and audience, but like, it's one
Hmm.
of the largest out there, period. What is it like to have someone like that who can be amplified by such broad, not just niche,
Yeah.
platforms?
I mean, she's a dream partnership. Like,
Yeah.
she's just an incredible human.
What's the DNA of
Um,
that partnership? Like, what how is it so perfect?
I think she's just incredibly authentic. Like, you just can't
Yeah.
teach that. Like, that's just who she is. And I obviously came on board. I think she had been with the brand as like an ambassador, which is like very funny. Her very first deal, I think, was like product.
Like
And
2018?
I think 2017
Yeah,
was like when we first
yep,
started the team at the time, was like seeing her product to see where she is now. But she has never, I think, wavered into like what it is about trail running that is fun for her, which is that it's just fun.
right,
And I think we were talking about this, like a lot of people try to crack, like,
right.
well, what is
There's
it?
no
Like, get what,
cracking
and there's
Courtney.
no, like, it's just,
She
that's,
just
that's the
likes to
story. She
run
just likes
enough
it.
that she
And
needs to brush her teeth 3 times during the
yeah,
run.
exactly. But I think getting to like know her more and work with her over the years, like she's really good about advocating for herself, and she does it in like a really great, just professional way that it's a partnership at the end of the day.
Yep,
Like, you never want to feel like an athlete is demanding something or the brand is demanding something of someone else. And I think that's what keeps it going. I think the fact that she has been like with Solomon from the beginning is super helpful. But um, yeah, I mean, I think those are the types of partnerships that you look at that are like very special. And it's just like seeing where her career has gone over the past 10 plus
yep.
years. It's just been incredible.
What about the intersection of influencers and performance athletes?
Yeah. What about
Yeah,
them?
I'm guessing you have a
Yes.
lot of opinions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the brand plays in both sandboxes, and
Yeah.
again, like, we're here, Dan Green and Grayson are
Mhm.
downstairs,
Mhm.
and then you're supporting Tommy,
Mhm.
and he's running 100K, and
Totally. Yeah. The way that I look at it is, I mean, I work on the sports style side as well. And
yep,
I think content creators, influencers are very different if you look at those two as like different sports, if
totally.
you will. Um,
Content
s-
creators and influencers separate.
no, I'm saying, well, in some sense,
Yeah,
yeah, but I'm saying sports style and performance.
got it.
Very different in terms of like who is the end consumer and what's
Sure.
going to like get them going. So when I think about it on the sports style lens, it's like very much about like being a if you know, kind
Yeah.
of, personality. And are they being able to, for us as a brand, are they being able to show like how to buy, how to style, like how you're gonna wear it out in the
How
streets.
do you define sports style?
Lifestyle
Got it, okay.
product, yeah. which is like all our old trail shoes that are now on, Paris Fashion Week runways. And
Gorp Core, right?
yeah, that really is where it exploded. And honestly, when I started in 2019, we didn't even have a dedicated Sportstyle team internally.
Yeah.
And now, like, on my team, I have our Sportstyle brand manager and who does like energy marketing around, partnerships and content and stuff. But it's just crazy to see like how much it's grown. And like the XT6 is like the it girl shoe in Manhattan right now. Like you can't go a block without seeing people wearing Salomon.
And it's a trail tread?
It is the, we probably have a pair downstairs, but yeah, it is the original shoe. It was like a UTMB podium shoe.
Wow.
2013 maybe.
People are just wearing it in Manhattan.
But yeah, they're just like, they are that category for us, that business unit is just like exploding.
What powers that?
I mean, there's a huge love. You look at other brands like Arc'teryx and like, this like mountain sport culture that I think is like very grabbable. Like people just really want to, just because you're in like a concrete jungle, like people really want to be able to say like, but this is like who I am and like who I aspire to be.
So do you think it's stronger in cities versus mountain towns?
Yeah. Wearing it through the lens of Sportstyle. Yes. Yeah. Like if you are, if you are, and I would actually bet that a lot of Sportstyle influencers or people within that world don't even know that the shoes were original trail running shoes or like.
So they're not actually doing the thing. They're just wanting to signal that they know what's going on.
Well, it's like anything. I mean, Hoka, Asics, like New Balance, a lot of the like lifestyle channel that they have is like the dad shoe or like, whatever's super popular. But we definitely have a stronghold in that category right now. And it's very fun to see that because there's also an intersection. There are people that are in that world that like want to rock their XT6, the XT Whisper after whatever, but then they're like racing in, whatever trail shoe we have, Ultra Glide. But a shoe that we had come out last year in the Sportstyle sense, the XT Whisper, was a 2009 created trail shoe for Salomon that was our first like women's specific silhouette that came out. We had a men's version called the XT Hawk that came at the same time. And then, it fizzled out after a year or so, went into the archives. And then in 2025, we brought it back out as a Sportstyle shoe. And part of that was that we've been pretty like male heavy in terms of our consumer DNA on the Sportstyle side in general, but on the Sportstyle side. And this was really a big initiative to like win with her by launching this, like, even though it's a unisex shoe, but leading with like the story behind it and kind of a woman's first perspective. And it's just been like crazy to see that gain as much notoriety and popularity as what the XT6 has.
Let's continue down that path for a little bit and then come back to the influencers.
Yeah, no, we really diverged there. Sorry.
So you just signed Grayson in her second trimester?
Yeah. I love it.
Would that couldn't have happened 5 years ago, 10 years
Probably,
ago?
no.
What has enabled that to be something that's not only just happening, but like celebrated?
I mean, I think a lot of brands and athletes that have been speaking up for years around like, how do we think about female athletes in the sport and what happens to them?
Right.
Many people before us that have like led that charge. And I've done a lot of partnership work with Alicia Montano and Mother and Lauren Fleshman, we worked with early on in our career in Salomon. And so I think, just people that have been like speaking up about it and like how contracts were built prior. And the value of an athlete has also changed, which ties us back into like the influencer space. Like it's not just about their podium times, but what can they bring to the brand? How can they advocate about the brand? How can
she's
they
a
speak
unicorn.
about it? Yeah, truly.
She's checks both boxes like well.
Yeah, totally.
But like what has changed that's enabled that to be possible? Like I've been in the partnerships and marketing space for 10, 12 years and my best partners have always been women. And I've always been banging on this drum of like, everyone else needs to this is insane that it's not the case. And it's finally catching up that like we're all humans, number one, and that's the most relatable part, not the fact that we can, look, be on the top of a podium, right? So like, why do you think it was it really just like needed to stumble and needed to wade through the shit before we can like get to a place where it makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think the digital age has changed a lot because it's just like the mentality I don't know what the mentality of brands were prior and like what the value that they placed on athletes and how they looked at them as like, what are they getting out of
Racehorses.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what do they get out of it? And how do they dispose of them? I think in general, sports marketing programs have improved to be able to think of the longevity or like how do you phase out an athlete or how
Right.
do you sunset their career, or like how do you work with them, like some athletes then become internal consultants in
Right.
the end or whatever. um but yeah, it's clearly has just like been long overdue in terms of that, and I think it is so badass that that was like how we announced this partnership with
Yeah.
her. And it's just really cool to see, and also like let's not forget that women peak later, and she's probably just got like the best days ahead of her in
Right.
terms of what's
Which is
coming. And
wild to
mom
think
strength is a
about.
very true thing. So
Yeah.
like it'll be very exciting to see her like come out on after having her first child and see what she starts to tackle.
So going back to what we were just talking about, how do you think about that intersection of athlete versus influencer
Yeah.
or content creator?
Well, then when I get to the performance running side of things, I think of it way different than I do sports style, where like I think that there's just, yeah, there's a lot of noise in that space.
Yep.
And as a consumer first, who's online scrolling her phone a lot, and then as you are
For
like
work.
for work, definitely, yeah, for work. And then like being out in real life experiences, you would know this too from being in events. Like you start to see where's the authenticity, and I
Yeah.
think it has to be authentic, or it's not going to make sense
Yep.
for the brand or for that person. And if you want to have like a quick like flash in the pan, sure, maybe you can like partner with someone who has a huge reach and see what that does,
Right.
but I think that's never been, like, the path that Salomon would wanna follow in terms of even who they would want for an athlete, for example. Like, it's the longer term payoff. Like, we
Yeah.
know Grayson's not gonna be running for a while,
Right.
but we believe in her and what she wants to do and what she means to the sport and the community, that it's,
Can
like, the longer payoff.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
It's fun to see when a brand bets on an athlete. We saw it with Molly and
Mhm.
Puma. I guess that was like a mutual bet.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm curious to go further on the long term or for the long run
Mhm.
piece of it. I posted on Threads recently. I was like, how aiming the question at consumers, like, how do you feel about influencers that bounce from brand to brand
Mm.
for campaigns? And like you see, one person doing three different activations at a major marathon. And I worked with one brand for 3 years. And so I'm biased in that, like, I worked with Puma for 3 years. It was like a well paying partnership
Mhm.
that like funded this whole operation. And now I don't have a shoot partner. I'm not being paid to host you on this
Mhm.
show. This is a totally slightly biased in that
Yeah. Yeah.
you brought me out here for
Yeah.
this, but
Yeah.
um, I, I was shocked with the response, and it was I got about 50 responses.
I'm curious to hear what it was.
I'm curious what your take is first
Before you
before I
tell
tell
me?
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, well, okay, so the question being like, yeah, how do you
The
feel
question was
about
like, would
people
you,
bouncing around?
yeah, yes.
I think my my personal opinion is this isn't going to be a great answer because I think you need both, but I think you have to be selective of like what does that, like an athlete like Courtney and athletes in general. Yes, they'll bounce around at some points in their career, but if you're seeing someone consistently bounce around,
Yep.
their value is going to decrease if it's like here we go to like post another announcement. Where on the content and influencer side, I actually appreciate it. I think that it's, like, more in line of what a normal
Reality
consumer
is,
is.
yeah.
Like, no one's gonna show up well, I have seen people, but no one's gonna show up head to toe in Salomon
Right.
all the time. Like, it makes sense that we try different brands and that we, kind of go around and, like, yeah, you have your favorites of, like, hydration or your favorite, hot brand or
Yep.
whatever. But I think it's unrealistic to assume a consumer is gonna be head to toe loyal to one brand. So I am fine with it.
So that was the takeaway from like 95% of
Yeah.
the responses. And I was surprised. I thought it would be in the other direction, that it was like a lack of trust thing.
Mm.
But the more you talk about it and the more I read through it, I was like, yeah, most people,
Is that what you were thinking too, or were you on the other?
I mean, I was like, I think it's odd that an influencer would do three events with different brands over the course of a race weekend.
Mhm.
But I was also confused as to like doing a bunch of different partnerships throughout a year. But to your point, it makes sense. Like people wear different shoes, people use different nutrition,
Mhm.
and these aren't pro athletes being paid to perform in that shoe, and they're not like helping innovate on that shoe.
Yeah.
The so I do some work with Zach Bitter, and
Mhm.
he has a similar yet different take. So he was sponsored by Ultra for
Mhm.
I don't know, a decade. So is his wife, I'm pretty sure. And now he's wanting to do like 3-month campaigns with brands because he's chasing peak performance. He's wanting to run 10 milers under 12 hours. And like most people can't do that. And
Yeah.
so for him, it's like whatever shoe I pick, I'm endorsing because I think that it's going to give me the best chance to run as fast as I possibly can. He's like,
Yeah.
I want to try a bunch of different brands and I want to show
Yeah.
what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and how to maximize on race day.
Yeah, it's such a, I mean, we get inundated with people like, I'm doing this, can you sponsor me or whatever? And then you take someone like Tommy, for example, that we have out here, on the content influencer side of things, who's running, we know he's on his quest to go to Western states, and that will not be with us. It'll be with a different brand, but this is one of the steps on the
Right.
way. And it just was like, he's, talk about longevity. It can look different because we've been, with Tommy on different things
Yep.
throughout the last several years. And so it's a natural fit that we like trust
Yep.
how he will represent the brand. We're okay that we know that that's going to mean, next race is going to be with somebody else, but like this was the moment, and he does such a great job and is a professional in it, that I think it can make sense. The other thing about like if you're in a particular race weekend, yeah, it's so hard to see. I would need to see some examples of like people doing it because it can feel inauthentic. That is a
I
risk
mean,
that
I
it can
literally watch
happen.
people change shoes to go
Yeah.
between events.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the coach at the Olympics that had so many people that he, like, kept changing his jacket.
Yeah.
He was representing multiple countries. Um, but yeah, and so maybe that you're like, "Huh, that doesn't make sense." But I think for emerging brands,
Yeah.
it's a way to, like, get into the space when you,
Yeah.
like, can't do some of the quotes that we get are just insane, and
Yeah.
it's like, I can't do that for this particular thing, but, like, could we do this one
Yep.
moment in time? So,
The more I hear about it, the more I'm, like, changing my opinion on it
mm,
because it makes total sense, and again, like,
mhm.
amateurs are not head to toe
Yeah.
in a brand, and you're an entertainer
Well,
also.
and you expect athletes to be
Right,
dedicated to one brand.
right,
So, like, you get that, and, like, that that's what we're gonna talk about. I think this is like yeah, I think a lot of people follow content creators, influencers because they wanna see the variety
right.
of things, and they wanna be exposed to stuff. And yes, there's
Yeah,
a lens of, like, I know you're being paid to talk about this, or
right,
you're being paid to show up, but they could say no and
right.
not do it. So, like, there is some level of trust of, like, okay, if they're choosing to spend their
Yeah.
time, that's already a little validation for me for that.
So, what has been effective for you in terms of how you connect influencers, content creators, and athletes? Is there a thought process around how the influencers can help the athletes and vice versa?
I think athletes have a lot of pressure to show up like an influencer
Yeah,
and content creator these days. So if you can like if I were an athlete and just able to like observe
yeah,
things that are out there, I think that is a way that can be helpful of like how do they show up or how do
yeah,
they make a reel or do whatever to like basically promote themselves as a
yeah,
brand. So I think that's a huge benefit because in part like the reason people I think are drawn to influencers, content creators is like that they're a brand.
right,
People are following Jonathan Levitt because like
right,
you're the brand, and athletes can learn a lot from that because I think it makes them really marketable. And when they're in a position that they're maybe looking for another brand sponsor or
yeah.
adding to it, like being able to show how to represent themselves is massive.
Can I put you on the spot and ask for an example of who you think is doing it well besides Courtney and Grayson?
Of a athlete,
Yeah,
Annie, for
yeah.
sure. She does a phenomenal job. I like she's newer to our team, and I just love watching her
Annie
content.
Rodenfels? Yeah.
I think she's really great.
Shout out to Meridia.
I know the whole Meridia team and just like seeing her and Colleen like working together all the
Yeah.
time is very, very cool.
I'd love your 2 cents or full dollar on Meridia. What will it take for something like that to really take off?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's gonna need to be larger support at some point, but I think the way that it's like being set up, and I will fully like don't know all the details of the inner workings of Meridia, but I think the way that they're, talking about the brand, launch the
Yep.
brand and the team, the support system that it feels like that they're setting up from the outside with someone who's like not in there, and I'm not in Boulder, but it's giving the perception that, like, things are clicking and this is a great
Yep.
setup for athletes, to be in. At some point, yeah, probably having some larger partnership.
So the structure is, the athletes are all able to
Have their
find their
own.
own
Yep.
endemic
Yep.
deals, shoe, nutrition, et cetera,
Mhm.
watches, et cetera. So calling this Murray is calling for
Yes.
the
Colleen?
viewing and listening audience, calling Quigley's team that
Mhm.
she's put together that's not backed by a shoe brand
Right.
and has independence of choice when it comes to coaches.
Mhm.
But the idea is that she wants to have non-endemic partners supporting
That's
it.
what I was gonna say. It's
Yeah.
gonna be non-endemic for sure.
Yep.
Like, I think that I mean, you see that in, other sports as
Literally every
well.
other
I was gonna
sport.
say it's gonna
It's
happen.
like we're talking like this is like a novel concept.
Yeah,
It's
we're like,
not.
"What
It's like
if?
cycling, it's
What
golf,
if another" Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
it. But Colleen's great at content
Mhm.
and she's built her own brand. The challenge is that she's the largest like brand
Voice within it.
property within the whole thing by a
Mhm.
large factor. And
Mhm.
so I think she needs a couple more Colleens or something like that. And I've been working with her for the last year on putting this together. We had a lengthy discussion with the Weather Channel that was like a six-figure multi-year deal that was like very close to coming to
Mhm.
fruition, but it was really hard to sell the dream before the thing existed.
Mhm. Mm.
And it was hard to start the thing before there was any funding. So it's
Yeah.
this like crazy catch-22, but she's so dedicated to doing it. And
Yeah.
the way that she's going about it is telling the story and letting people in and doing YouTube, doing
Mhm.
podcasts, doing
Mhm.
all these media things to build the fan base. And so last year we did a Meridia Mile. It was a virtual
Mhm.
mile and it raised a few $1,000s for the team.
Mhm.
And we'll partner with Boulderthon this year
Cool.
in some capacity to do either a Meridian mile or a mile within one of the other
Yeah.
races
Yeah.
in partnership with Meridia. But I think that the opportunity there is both the digital, like subscriber or fundraising through virtual race and the non-endemics.
Mhm.
And it's just like, it's new, it's novel
Mhm.
ish in running,
Mhm.
but it works in literally every other
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah. I think it's gonna get there for sure. And I think, anything worth doing is like gonna have these like
Right.
speed bumps in the beginning, but the bones of it are there.
Yeah.
And I think like having this women's team and the fact that you do have the athletes individually having their
Yep.
sponsorships, like there's naturally going to be more eyes on them. And like part of our job as a brand is to also help
Yep.
Annie build her own brand. So I think it'll get there, but yeah.
What is it about Annie that you're so impressed by?
I actually have not met her. We've only emailed. Drew's been around her a lot more as he is,
In
deals with
Boulder?
our, yeah, and
Yeah.
deals with our sports and community programs. But she just has such like a relatable personality. Like she makes running look like fun, but also doesn't shy away for she's not totally in the Courtney realm where like
Right.
everything's happy. Like she doesn't
Right.
shy away from like the hardness of it sometimes. I don't know. I just like I see her and Colleen together and I'm like,
They're
I want
having
to be with
fun.
them. Like
Yeah.
they just make you feel like, oh, I want to go on a run or get coffee with them
Yeah.
after.
And she's really freaking fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fast. Yeah.
One thing that's come up a lot that I'd love your opinion on is athletes taking a stand for something.
Mm,
We are living through absolute chaos
yeah.
constantly. The world is on fire everywhere it seems, and people are dealing with things that we could never have imagined
Mm-hmm.
Americans are dealing with
Mm-hmm.
um, before you even get out of the country, and look at things happening in other places. As someone who sits at a global brand based in Europe with customers all around the world who share different views, like how do you think about athletes and content creators who you're partnering with
Mhm.
taking a stand, not taking a stand, saying things that you disagree with? Like, what is the conversation? Is there conversation happening at the brand on that?
There might be at the global level on the global sports marketing team, but my personal opinion of it is like it again, I've said this word a couple times, but like it all comes back to authenticity.
Yeah,
And if you can't believe like the people that you're following, if you can't believe that they're being authentic, it's just hard to trust. Like then
yeah,
why would I listen that you like Solomon, you
right,
know? And so I think when someone like stays true to, and it's okay to evolve and change, but when someone stays true to like how they've always been,
right,
I'm good if they say whatever they want to say. And I
yeah,
think we do need people to be speaking up about things. And so, but I also believe that like sometimes the shaming of, like, not speaking up, it's
right.
a
You're damned if
really
you do,
hard
damned if you
place to
don't.
go, and, I won't call anyone out in particular, but I think that, like, I don't think we should be in the running space passing judgment if that's how someone chooses to, like, protect their peace, and, like, I
Right,
think those of us that, like, work within the brand, we face that too of, like, we not that we're on the level of influencers or but, like, people follow us in the
right.
industry, and, like, what if I post something that someone disagrees with, and that can weigh a lot, but, like, we all have to protect our own mental health
Yep.
in the space, but I am uh, yeah, I support everyone posting what or taking a stand
I
for what they believe in.
I think a lot of it is like, if to your point, like, if you stay consistent and true to who you are, you'll never surprise anyone with
Yeah,
a stand that you
yeah,
take. And so when something happens, you can say something
yeah.
and it shouldn't be surprising.
Well, and that's the human aspect of like
Right.
like we're
This
all
isn't just
humans
running.
within
Yeah.
it. Like it's silly to just like go clickety clack on our computers and
Right.
like not
Send
pretend that this
emails
is
and yeah.
happening in the world. And I actually feel really like yeah, I think that when I look at like Maggie and Annie in particular, I think they're both really great at being really thoughtful and eloquent in how they share their views on things and opinions. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's
What's
it.
firing you up in the running space right now?
Oh man. I what keeps me up at night is that I think that there's just so many good brands out there right now that as someone who's like one of my KPIs, if you will, in like a very just vague sense is like we talk a lot about like building the core. Like how do we get those of us that feel this way about Solomon? How do we get everyone to feel that
Yeah.
way or more people to feel that way? And that's like such a
Yeah.
hard topic to
Vibes.
yeah, that just vibes. As the person who runs the vibes department,
API of
it's just
vibes.
so yeah, the vibes guy. It's hard to be consumer obsessed when there's just so much going on, and sometimes I feel like I have to put blinders on because if you get down the trap of being like, "Oh, ACG is doing this or Hoka is doing this or New Balance is doing that," it can be you can get distracted pretty quickly and be like, "Oh, well, we should do that," or like,
Right.
"That's how we should do it." And like, I think you sometimes just really have to stay focused on like, how do we connect with people? And I am such an experiential person that like I will always come back to like, we need to put something on that's going to allow people to experience the brand and experience people behind the brand.
One other question that I've liked asking lately, are you using AI in your day to day?
No,
No.
I'm not. I personally am not.
All right.
I'm sure I know that there's like, yeah, teams that are to improve processes, but I am not.
Got it. Well, we can skip to
Oh, sorry. Now I
skip to
wanna
the
know what your
next topic.
question was. You're like, "Okay."
No, I've been asking that question. I put out a Substack, or I'm putting out a three-part Substack
Yeah.
series on the first piece is AI for brand
Mm,
and marketers. The second
mhm.
is for operators and founders, and there's like a tools and how to structure and give it
Mhm.
context and all that. And I've personally been using it
Yeah,
like an hour a day every day, and it's like saved me tens of hours every week.
I'm sure.
Uh,
I'm sure I can benefit from it in
yeah,
that
I'll
sense.
send
Yeah,
you
yeah,
the
great.
articles.
Yeah.
Longrunlabs.substack.com.
There you go.
But it's been interesting to ask that question to people and then kind of like synthesize what everyone's saying,
Mhm.
and use that to help like create these how-to guides for for it based on like the actual use cases.
Yeah, there's gonna be I think maybe in the space that I work in might be one of the lower priority ones to start to adapt, or adopt some AI usage, but, for sure in our, like, actual digital performance marketing,
Right.
paid media, and all that sense, it is, yeah,
Analytics. Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Um, we were talking yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today. What is time, anyways? About successful partnerships
Mhm,
in the running space. When you're looking to partner with someone,
mhm,
what does a successful partnership
mm,
discussion, discovery,
yeah.
how are you setting yourself up for success?
I mean, there's a lot. I think we were talking about this because, like, yeah, when do you start to measure the success of
Right.
a partnership? And
Or even what
yeah,
success is.
yeah, I think, yeah, being able to answer that has to be the first step.
Right.
Like, you have no business really, like, getting into a discussion because
Right.
it's going to end up not being a great experience for anybody.
For context, I told Erin that like 50% of the time when I ask a brand, like, what is success with this partnership?
Mhm.
They just don't know how to answer the question.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, so it kind of depends on like what am I trying to do here? What's the objective of this partnership? Are we putting on an event and we want someone to help us get bodies there?
Yep.
Being able to just like root
Do
yourself
that.
in one thing
Yep.
of like my boss is very, very good about instilling this of like anytime we have a discussion, she's like, I want to know what a win looks like.
Yep.
That's how we like start the
Right.
conversation. And she'll push back of just like that's not clear enough. Like
Right.
you need to be able to say what it is. So I think it depends on what the circumstance is, but yeah, I think looking at like if you have a partnership in your mind, but you're not quite sure what you want to do with them yet, being able to understand what that brand or entity or person is really good at
Yep.
that you are lacking. So, like, where does the puzzle piece
Great
connect?
point.
I think
Yeah.
is like a key thing because if you have too much sameness, you're just in the echo chamber of
Yep.
like your own people and thoughts. Um, and then, like, where is it that like you can have a partnership that maybe is a little bit unexpected, but like still makes sense at
Yep.
the end of the day? I think is really cool. But then, yeah, just being very clear of like, is this about, yeah, is this about tapping into their audience? Because we know, making this up, we know that we are really great with trail runners and we're expanding with road runners. So who can we
Yep.
find who's a really trusted source in that space that can work with us and validate us as a brand in
Yep.
that sense? So yeah, thinking about what's going to be in it for both, and then I always anytime we start partnership, even if it's like with an agent, a creative agency that's building out a concept or whatever it is, like being very clear of like what do we need you to take on and what are we taking on and how do we make this win together? And then hearing them out of like what do they need
Yep.
and how can we help?
How often is that conversation happening in the being prompted by the creator or the partner? Or is
Of
it led
them
by the brand?
of like establishing like what does this
Yeah.
look like? Um I actually feel like it mostly comes from the brand side. I feel like there's I get approached a lot, and so does Brew for a lot of partnerships.
People who just like want something from it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes if I'm, like, going to entertain it, like, sometimes I just know off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just I'm not
Right.
willing to even entertain this right now, or I
Yeah.
can't, like, there's just
Yeah.
too much. You gotta pick a lane. You gotta say no to things sometimes. There's too much going on. But, yeah, there are times that someone can have a really great idea. "Hey, I'm running this race, and I love the brand, and I think it'd be great if you sponsor me to run
Yep.
across America," whatever their thing is, and it's like, "Well, but
How does the
what's
brand
yeah,
tie into
beyond
it?
the money that
Yeah.
will cut you, like, what is this do you have a connection with someone? Like,
Right.
how does this make it work? And I think sometimes I am shocked at how much pulling teeth sometimes it can take of being like, "What are you trying to get out of this? And does this actually, like, fall in line with,
Right.
like, do you actually understand our brand and what we're doing?" Um, but then it's on different levels. I mean, there's great partnerships where they come in and they're like, "We see what you're doing. Here's how we think we can elevate.
Yeah.
Let's go." And we're like, "Great, let's go."
If you can deliver a playbook to a partner of like how you're going
How
to
to do
help
that?
them execute
Mm,
and how partnering with them is going to help both,
yeah,
that's
that's a great
how
takeaway.
to make magic
Yeah.
happen. Erin, this has been a blast.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to chat through today?
We're just so grateful to have you out here. I think it's been a great weekend for us all to experience Big Alta
Yeah.
for the first time in their third year, inaugural year of the 100K. And yeah,
Gonna
it's
rip a
definitely
28K.
yeah, we're both gonna be in the
Yeah,
28K
let's do
tomorrow.
it.
It's gonna be
Cool.
great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.